I am Eleanor Whitfield, 35 years old, and somehow still healing from wounds my family inflicted. As a successful software developer, I escaped their toxicity, but maintained occasional contact. Last Sunday, they invited me to an upscale brunch to catch up. Between mimosas and avocado toast, my mother leaned forward, smirking. "You know, Eleanor, you are lucky we even include you. Pity goes a long way." I simply sipped my coffee and smiled. That night I logged in, disabled every family credit account, and emailed my lawyer about selling the cabin. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe if you have ever had to stand up to family who underestimated your worth. Growing up in Ridgemont, Connecticut meant privilege to outsiders. But inside our sprawling colonial home, emotional coldness permeated every corner. Our 4-bedroom house, with its manicured lawn and heated swimming pool, was a fortress of expectations I could never quite meet. My childhood bedroom, painted pale blue at my mother, Margaret's, insistence, despite my preference for green, became my sanctuary in prison. To this day I maintain that pale blue is the color of quiet suffering, and green is the color of people who are actually allowed to be happy. From elementary school through high school, I maintained straight A's, joined honor societies, and captained the debate team. Yet my achievements collected dust while my brother Oliver received lavish praise for his mediocre baseball performance and average grades. At my high school graduation, where I delivered the valedictorian speech, my father Edward checked his BlackBerry throughout, and my mother later complained that my dress looked department store. "We expect excellence from you, Eleanor," my father would say dismissively whenever I showed him a perfect report card or academic award. "Oliver needs more encouragement. He is not naturally gifted like you." This backhanded compliment became their justification for emotional neglect. Our family wealth came from Whitfield Estates Group, a commercial real estate development company my father built from scratch in the 80s. By the time I was 10, the company owned shopping centers across 3 states. My mother, a former beauty queen from Virginia, dedicated herself to climbing social ladders. She served on charity boards, not from compassion, but for connections, and hosted dinner parties where I was showcased briefly like an exotic pet before being sent upstairs. The family cabin on Lake Winslow, Vermont, represented our public image of wholesome togetherness. Nestled on the water with 6 bedrooms and a private dock, it appeared in our Christmas cards and family legend as a place of happiness. In reality, weekends there meant my father working remotely, my mother planning social events on the phone, and Oliver playing video games while I read alone on the dock. One Thanksgiving when I was 12, I overheard my mother telling her sister on the phone, "Of course, Eleanor is smart, but she lacks social graces. Oliver has that natural charm people gravitate toward." I stopped entering rooms after that without announcing myself first. When I received a full scholarship to the Camden Institute of Technology for Computer Science, my parents seemed almost disappointed. "We could have paid," my father said, as though my achievement diminished their importance. Oliver attended Ashford College with mediocre grades, and our parents paid every expense plus an apartment off campus. During college, I developed financial acumen alongside my programming skills. I created a stock prediction algorithm for a class project that caught the attention of investment firms. By graduation, I had turned my scholarship living stipend into a modest investment portfolio through careful, patient trading. Ironically, this financial insight led to my complex entanglement with family money. After Oliver lost $35,000 in a single weekend trading penny stocks without research, a personal record he would later shatter, much like a man determined to break his own ankle twice, my father asked me to keep an eye on things. This vague request devolved into me becoming the unofficial family financial advisor by my late 20s. I established trusts, managed investment accounts, optimized their tax strategies, and digitized their entire financial infrastructure. I automated bill payments for their properties, created secure access systems for their accounts, and built redundancies that only I fully understood. All while building my own career at a financial software firm where I eventually became senior developer. My own apartment in Cambridge remained deliberately modest despite my growing personal wealth. A two-bedroom condo with industrial-style furnishings and walls lined with books became my true home. There, friends like Isabel and Jonathan, who knew my real self, would gather for wine nights and honest conversations. In this chosen family, I found genuine connections my biological family never provided. Yet I maintained contact with my parents and brother out of some stubborn hope that eventually they would see me, really see me. Each birthday dinner, holiday gathering, and family event reopened wounds that never fully healed. Eleanor has her little computer job, my mother would tell her friends at charity galas where I occasionally appeared. We are so proud she found something that suits her analytical mind. She would pat my hand while delivering these diminishing comments, making any objection seem oversensitive. My father maintained emotional distance through work obsession. His rare direct communications came through texts asking for financial guidance or help with technological issues. Oliver, following the path cleared for him, joined our father in business despite lacking aptitude. His position as Vice President of Development existed in title only while junior employees handled his responsibilities. He was basically a very expensive houseplant with a company email address. The irony never escaped me that despite being treated as insignificant, I controlled the digital infrastructure of their financial lives. Every password, every account access point, every automatic payment flowed through systems I created and maintained. They required my expertise while pretending it was trivial. This contradiction created an unsustainable tension that had been building for years before that fateful brunch. The invitation came through text message on a Wednesday afternoon while I was debugging code at work. Family brunch Sunday at the Ivory Fox, 11 a.m. Your presence expected. No, please. My mother always communicated in imperatives when it came to family appearances. What she did not know was that I had recently discovered concerning transactions while performing routine maintenance on the family accounts. Oliver had withdrawn increasing amounts from his trust fund, with nearly $65,000 disappearing over 2 months. The transactions originated from ATMs near Silverbrook Casino in Connecticut. I had quietly investigated, discovering he had opened secret credit cards with astronomical balances. His gambling addiction explained his recent jittery behavior and constant requests for temporary loans from our parents. They remained oblivious, attributing his cash requests to his recent divorce settlement with his ex-wife, Fiona. This discovery put me in an uncomfortable position. Revealing his addiction would cause family chaos. Concealing it made me complicit. Additionally, my parents had recently decided to renovate the Vermont cabin without consulting me, despite my part ownership inherited from my grandmother. The renovation plans eliminated the library she had specifically designated for me in her will. These tensions simmered as I reluctantly agreed to brunch. Saturday night before the meeting, I prepared myself meticulously. I selected a charcoal gray sheath dress, conservative yet expensive enough to withstand my mother's scrutiny. I rehearsed neutral topics of conversation and set mental boundaries about what information I would share about my personal life. Sunday morning arrived with spring sunshine that belied my internal weather. I drove my modest sedan to the Ivory Fox, an overpriced French bistro my mother selected for its visibility among her social circle. The restaurant occupied prime real estate in Boston's Back Bay, with expansive windows allowing patrons to see and be seen. I arrived precisely on time to find my family already seated. My father looked distinguished in his tailored navy suit, silver hair perfectly coiffed. My mother wore her signature pearls with an ivory linen dress, her blonde highlights freshly done. Oliver appeared haggard despite his expensive clothes, with shadows under his eyes and a slight tremor in his hands as he checked his phone constantly. "Eleanor, darling, 15 minutes early is on time," my mother said as I sat down. Though I was exactly on time, this passive-aggressive greeting set the tone. The waiter approached immediately. "Welcome to the Ivory Fox. May I start you with beverages? Mimosas for the table," my father declared without consultation. "Eleanor will have coffee, black. She avoids alcohol because of her migraines." This was untrue. I avoided alcohol around them because I needed full faculties to navigate their dynamics. Actually, I will have a sparkling water with lemon and coffee, I corrected quietly. My mother sighed dramatically. Always the difficult one. Around us, other families engaged in genuine conversation. A father at the next table listened attentively to his teenage daughter. An elderly couple held hands across their table. These glimpses of authentic connection highlighted the performative nature of our gathering. Meanwhile, our table looked like a hostage negotiation with better lighting. The waiter returned with drinks, taking our breakfast orders. My mother criticized my choice of avocado toast as predictable, while praising Oliver for selecting steak and eggs despite his obvious hangover. "How is the programming job?" my father asked, glancing at his watch. "Software development," I corrected gently. "My team just launched a new financial security platform that has been acquired by 3 major banks." "How nice," my mother interrupted. "Oliver just closed the Kensington development deal. $40 million. Oliver shifted uncomfortably. I knew from my access to the company accounts that the Kensington deal had fallen through weeks ago. Another lie maintained for appearances. "Congratulations," I offered neutrally, watching him avoid eye contact. The conversation continued with my mother dominating, discussing mutual friends, country club gossip, and subtle digs at my perpetual single status. Vivian Ashford just got engaged. Her 3rd marriage. And here you are, still waiting for your first. Though with your particular personality, perhaps independence suits you better. I noticed a young server watching our table with concerned eyes. She had probably witnessed similar family dynamics before and recognized the undercurrents. When she refilled my water, she offered a small, sympathetic smile, a tiny act of solidarity in enemy territory. "We expect you at the cabin renovation reveal party next month," my mother announced suddenly. "We have invited everyone who matters." "I was not aware renovations had been approved," I replied carefully. "As a partial owner, I should have been consulted." My father waved dismissively. "Legal technicality. Your grandmother was sentimental. The renovations are necessary for modernization. The library was specifically designated for me in her will," I pointed out. "That musty room with all those books nobody reads," my mother declared. "It is becoming a media room. Oliver needs space for entertaining clients. Besides, you hardly visit anyway." I felt my chest tighten but maintained composure. "I visit monthly to maintain the property and accounts." "Speaking of accounts," Oliver interjected nervously, "I might need some adjustments to my access levels. For business purposes." He wanted higher withdrawal limits to fund his gambling. I realized this before I could respond. Our food arrived, temporarily pausing the conversation. I noticed my mother exchange glances with my father, some unspoken communication passing between them. "Eleanor," my mother began after the server departed, her voice taking on the syrupy quality that always preceded her most cutting remarks. "We have been discussing your role in family matters." My father cleared his throat. "Your expertise has been valuable, but Oliver is taking a more active interest in the financial aspects of the business." Translation: they wanted to reduce my visibility into accounts to hide Oliver's problems. "I see," I replied, cutting my avocado toast into precise triangles. "That would require significant transitions. The systems are complex." "You always complicate things," my mother snapped. "Oliver has a financial advisor from Whitmore and Sachs now. Much more professional arrangement." I knew this was a lie. No professional would approve Oliver's current financial behavior. The brunch continued with mounting tension, leading inexorably toward the moment that would finally break my long-suffering patience. The pivotal moment arrived as our plates were cleared. A family with young children was seated nearby, their genuine affection for each other painfully apparent. The father helped his daughter cut her pancakes while the mother listened intently to their son's animated story. My mother noticed my observation. "Some people are naturally suited for family life," she remarked pointedly. It requires a certain warmth and flexibility. I sipped my now lukewarm coffee, saying nothing. We are meeting with the interior designer for the cabin renovations on Tuesday, my father announced, checking emails on his phone. The contractor estimates completion by July. I would prefer if my designated space remained intact, I said quietly but firmly. Grandmother Beatrice specifically wanted me to have that library. Oliver snorted. You and those books. We need space people will actually use. I use it, I countered. I work remotely from there when maintaining the family accounts. About those accounts, my mother interjected. We feel it would be best if you transferred everything to Oliver's new financial team. It is inappropriate for you to have such access to family matters when you are so removed from our daily lives. The insinuation was clear. After years of managing their financial affairs without compensation or appreciation, I was being pushed aside because I might discover Oliver's gambling problem or object to their renovation plans. Is my involvement in family finances causing problems? Asked directly. My father finally looked up from his phone. We simply think clearer boundaries would benefit everyone. Your technical skills were useful during the digital transition. But professional management makes more sense now. Professional management, I repeated. My brother shifted uncomfortably. My guy is top tier. Wexford Business School. A blatant lie. I maintained my composure, though internally my thoughts raced. They wanted to remove my access because I knew too much, not because they had better options. Well, I said carefully. Transferring the systems would require significant documentation. The security protocols are intricate. You always make everything so complicated, my mother sighed dramatically. This is exactly why family gatherings are so tense. Your constant need to assert control. I do not need to assert control, I replied. I design the systems you all rely on. Transitioning requires proper procedures. My mother placed her napkin on the table and delivered the line that would change everything. Leaning forward with a smirk playing at her lips, she said, You know, Eleanor, you are lucky we even include you in family matters at all. Pity goes a long way. Most people would have given up trying to integrate someone so difficult. The restaurant seemed to fall silent around us, though objectively the ambient noise continued. My father continued scrolling on his phone, tacitly approving her statement through his silence. Oliver gave an uncomfortable laugh, glancing around as if concerned someone might have overheard. In that moment, memories cascaded through my mind. My 8th birthday when they forgot to invite my friends. High school graduation when my achievements were minimized. College move-in day, when they dropped me off early to attend Oliver's baseball game. Year after year of subtle and overt messages that I was an obligation, not a beloved family member. Externally, I remained calm. I slowly placed my coffee cup on its saucer, feeling the cool ceramic against my fingertips. I straightened my napkin precisely on my lap. When I finally looked up, I smiled. Thank you for your honesty, Mother, I said, my voice steady, despite the earthquake happening within me. She seemed momentarily disoriented by my calm response. She had expected tears or anger or defensive arguments. My composed acknowledgement left her without a follow-up script. Well, she finally said, I am simply being truthful. Family harmony requires accepting one's place. Indeed it does, I agreed, maintaining eye contact until she looked away first. The remainder of brunch proceeded with tense small talk. My father discussed stock market trends without recognizing the irony that his knowledge came from reports I had prepared. Oliver checked his phone repeatedly, likely monitoring sports betting odds. My mother commented on the attire of other patrons, finding flaws in everyone. I observed them as if from a great distance. The subtle family dynamics were so clear now. My father using work to avoid emotional engagement, my mother weaponizing social expectations to maintain control, Oliver enabled and coddled until he became entitled and irresponsible, and me, the competent one, simultaneously relied upon and diminished. When the check arrived, my father handed over his platinum card without glancing at the total. This card was connected to accounts I had established and maintained. The irony was not lost on me. "We expect you Tuesday for the design meeting," my mother stated as we prepared to leave. Not a request, a command. "I will check my schedule," I replied non-committally. "Your work can surely spare you for family priorities," she pressed. I smiled again, the decision crystallizing within me. Family priorities. Yes, those are important to consider. We exited the restaurant together, maintaining the appearance of a unified family. My father immediately took a business call. My mother air-kissed my cheek without making contact. Oliver asked if he could borrow $4,500 until Friday, confirming my suspicions about his gambling debts. "I will see what I can do," I replied, knowing already what my answer would be. As I walked to my car alone, the spring sunshine felt different somehow. The weight I had carried for decades pressed down unbearably, but beneath it, a small seed of resolve had taken root. My mother's cruel words echoed, but now they felt like permission rather than punishment. If pity was the only reason for my inclusion, then perhaps it was time to remove myself from the equation entirely. And in doing so, I would finally establish the boundaries I had failed to create for 35 years. The 20-minute drive from the Ivory Fox to my Cambridge apartment passed in a blur. Once inside my home, I methodically hung up my coat, placed my keys in their designated bowl, and walked to my home office. Only then, surrounded by my books and achievements, did I allow the emotional dam to break. Tears came silently at first, then in heaving sobs that bent me forward in my ergonomic desk chair. "You are lucky we even include you." The words replayed in an endless loop. 35 years of seeking approval from people constitutionally incapable of giving it. After 15 minutes of raw emotional release, I straightened up, wiped my face, and opened my laptop. Grief would have its time, but first I needed information and a plan. I logged into the family financial dashboard I had created. The interface showed interconnected accounts, properties, investments, and credit lines. The Whitfield family financial empire in digital form, all accessible through authentication protocols I had designed. My father had insisted on convenience over complexity, resulting in a system where one administrator could control everything through master access. That administrator was me. I began systematically documenting everything. Account numbers, access credentials, transaction histories, property deeds, investment portfolios, credit lines, insurance policies, trust fund structures, tax filings. I created secure offline backups of all data, knowing evidence might be necessary later. The picture that emerged confirmed what I already knew but had ignored. Oliver had withdrawn over $150,000 in the past year from various accounts, most in cash transactions near casinos. My parents had spent nearly $750,000 on luxury expenses while complaining about the charitable donations I had automated from their accounts. The Vermont cabin renovations had been contracted for $600,000 without proper permits or notification to me as partial owner. The library my grandmother had legally designated for me was scheduled for demolition next week. For the record, nobody demolishes a library while its rightful heir is a systems architect with admin access to everything you own. That's just poor operational security. First, I would need legal counsel. I contacted Jonathan, my closest friend, who happened to be a corporate attorney. "I need a referral for someone specializing in family financial disputes and property rights," I explained after briefly summarizing the situation. "Victoria Hartley," Jonathan replied without hesitation. "She handled my sister's complex divorce. Brilliant, ethical, and absolutely fearless. I will text you her contact information." I reviewed my grandmother Beatrice's will regarding the Vermont property. The document clearly stated, "The library at the Lake Winslow property is bequeathed specifically to my granddaughter Eleanor Whitfield for her lifetime use, to remain intact as a place of learning and reflection." The planned renovation directly violated this legally binding provision. By 9 p.m., my emotions had stabilized and my plan had solidified. I would not act from anger, though anger was justified. I would not seek revenge, though the opportunity presented itself. Instead, I would simply stop protecting them from the consequences of their own actions while asserting my own legal rights. At precisely 11 p.m., I began executing the first phase of my plan. I disabled automatic payments on all family credit cards, leaving them active but removing the safety net that prevented late fees. I changed the security protocols on the investment accounts to require dual authentication, effectively freezing access until new protocols were established. For the family checking accounts, I left them operational but removed the overdraft protection I had established. Oliver's secret credit cards would be the first to feel the effect when his automatic payments failed. Finally, I composed an email to the family attorney regarding the Vermont cabin renovation, and a brief factual email to my parents and brother. I am stepping back from management of family financial affairs effective immediately. Security protocols have been updated to protect accounts during this transition. I have also addressed the legal issues regarding the Vermont property renovation through appropriate channels. I will be unavailable for direct communication for the foreseeable future as I reassess my relationship with this family. Eleanor. I clicked send, then systematically logged out of all accounts and turned off my phone. For the first time in years, I felt the weight of family obligation lift from my shoulders. The next morning I powered on my phone to find 17 missed calls, 23 text messages, and 9 voicemails. I ignored them all and called Victoria Hartley's office instead. Her office occupied the 14th floor of a sleek downtown building. Based on these documents, your position is legally sound, she concluded after I laid everything out. The cabin library provision is explicitly protected in the will. Your administrator access to financial systems was formally granted by your father. The question now is what outcome you desire. I want 3 things, I replied. Protection of my legal rights regarding the Vermont property. Complete separation from family financial management without becoming their scapegoat. And immunity from any accusations of financial impropriety once Oliver's gambling losses surface. Escalation followed, exactly as predicted. Oliver progressed from angry texts to thinly veiled threats. You have no idea what you are doing to this family. Then a phone call. The credit card company declined my payment. I need $25,000 by tomorrow or there will be serious problems. Casino markers, he admitted. Your gambling debts are not my responsibility, I told him, and ended the call feeling something close to peace. The specific hard-won peace of a woman who has finally stopped being the family's tech support and emotional shock absorber at the same time. Within days, my father's attorney demanded restoration of all access. My mother sent a vague, uncharacteristic apology that pivoted straight to demands. Dr. Helena Reed, my therapist, called it classic minimization and an attempt to re-establish control. I did not respond to any of it. The first month passed in a blur of legal proceedings and personal recalibration. Oliver, without access to family funds, was forced to sell his luxury condo and move into a modest apartment. His sports car was repossessed after missed payments. My father reportedly paid over $90,000 to prevent more serious consequences at the casino's hands. My parents faced their own reckonings. Embarrassing declined transactions at social events, late fees on the country club membership. The Vermont cabin renovation became a legal battle. County inspectors discovered code violations and insufficient permits, and construction was halted indefinitely. Through it all, my professional life flourished. Freed from constant interruptions for tech support and financial rescue missions, I completed a major project ahead of schedule and accepted a speaking engagement at a financial technology conference I had previously declined. Isabel and Jonathan formed a protective circle around me. You seem different, a friend named Alexandra commented 6 weeks in. More present somehow. I am learning to exist without constant vigilance, I explained. Around the 2-month mark, Oliver escalated. Appearing at my workplace, security turned him away, and leaving handwritten notes at my old apartment. Please help me. I know I have a problem, one finally admitted. My parents adopted different strategies. My father leaning on business connections to apply pressure, my mother spreading the story that I was having a breakdown and they were giving her space. 3 months in, The Vermont town clerk contacted me about inquiries into selling the cabin, the first I'd heard of it. My parents, unable to renovate and desperate for liquidity, were trying to sell around me. My father followed up directly. "We have interested buyers prepared to offer $5 million. Your share would be substantial. Contact me if you want to be included." Victoria confirmed no legal mechanism existed for them to sell without my consent. I did not respond. 4 months after the brunch, Oliver, now attending Gamblers Anonymous, took a modest job at an insurance company, far below his old executive title. My father downsized operations and sold a vacation property. My mother resigned from 2 charity boards. I continued my own healing. Weekly therapy, a meditation practice, a pottery class I'd always dismissed as impractical, and casual dating without the shadow of family interrogation. At the 6-month mark, Oliver requested a mediated meeting through Victoria's office, without our parents. He arrived looking entirely different. No designer clothes, no expensive watch, no entitled swagger, and placed a 6-month sobriety chip on the table. "When you stopped enabling the family, everything collapsed quickly," he said. Dad had to face that his company was over-leveraged. Mom had to confront that her social standing was built on financial quicksand. And I had to admit I was an addict, not just having bad luck. He didn't ask for money, help, or forgiveness, just wanted me to know. "I always knew you were the strongest one of us," he said as we parted. "I just never understood that your kind of strength was the one that mattered." It was the first family interaction in 6 months that didn't leave me feeling diminished. Our parents, however, held their position, my father proposing a reunification plan that mostly involved me resuming account management, my mother leaving voicemails about putting this unfortunate misunderstanding behind us. I saved the messages as documentation and moved on. A year passed. I celebrated my 36th birthday at a beachside restaurant with Isabel, Jonathan, and a dozen genuine friends. My actual favorite seafood, my actual favorite cake flavor, no awkward family dinner where my preferences were overlooked. I was promoted to Director of Financial Security Systems, leading a team building next-generation protection protocols, the very skills my family had dismissed while quietly depending on them for a decade. At the 14-month mark, I ran into my father at a fintech conference. He'd aged visibly. His once immaculate hair showed signs of neglect. "Your mother would like to hear from you," he said, expecting compliance as always. "That would require acknowledgement of past patterns and commitment to different behavior," I replied evenly. He stiffened, offered the old script about grudges, and I countered calmly that this wasn't about grudges, it was about patterns of harm. A colleague interrupted, and he moved on with the familiar dismissal I'd known my whole life. But it no longer triggered anxiety in me, just clinical recognition of an ineffective pattern. The Vermont cabin situation eventually resolved through a fair buyout of my ownership share, negotiated with Victoria's help. I used part of the proceeds to buy a small waterfront cottage on Lake Kestrel in New Hampshire. A wall of windows over the water, bookshelves built into every free wall, and no echoes of anyone else's criticism. My relationship with Oliver evolved through careful, bounded monthly coffee meetings, built on accountability rather than obligation. My mother, less capable of evolution, kept up an indirect campaign through mutual friends and orchestrated public run-ins. At a mutual friend's wedding 18 months out, she cornered me near the champagne table. "This arrangement has gone on long enough. People are talking." "I am not estranged," I corrected. "I am establishing healthy interaction patterns by requiring mutual respect as a condition of closeness." She shook her head, unable to process a world where her own behavior, not my response to it, had created our current reality. 2 years after that brunch, I sat on the dock at my New Hampshire cottage, watching the sunset paint the lake gold and crimson, journal in my lap. The healing had not been linear. Certain dates still ached, some dreams still replayed old dynamics, but the overall trajectory pointed toward wholeness. I had learned that true family is defined by mutual respect, not obligation. That boundaries are not punishments but the architecture of healthy relationships. That financial entanglement often masks emotional manipulation, dressed up as generosity. That healing begins with naming reality accurately instead of preserving a comfortable illusion. And most importantly, that self-worth cannot be externally validated, because approval that depends on your usefulness was never really approval at all. As darkness settled over the lake, I closed my journal and watched the stars come out. The words that once wounded me, "You're lucky we even include you," had become, without my mother ever intending it, the key that unlocked my prison door. Have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you loved, even when it was painful? Have you found your own voice after years of being diminished? The journey to self-worth is rarely easy, but it is always necessary. Share your story in the comments, and remember to like and subscribe if this resonated with you. Thank you for listening to my journey, and may you find the courage to honor your own truth, whatever that may require.